Alright, everyone, back again for episode 3. I guess we'll call it. Last week, I talked about and I rebooked how I would do the WCW buyout slash invasion from 2001 and really just took you up to WrestleMania 18. I got some nice feedback on that, appreciate that. And my next video was going to be something 90s related, which would have been honestly a much longer video, maybe even a two-parter, but it would honestly have changed wrestling as we know it. That's all I'm going to say. But I decided not to do that one because there was a topic that came into my head that honestly I've thought about from time to time, and I really wanted to talk about it, especially after all the great work he did from 2020 to up to this year at WrestleMania. And you could probably tell who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Roman Reigns. And I want to talk about what I think could have happened. And this is actually pretty appropriate because I'm wearing a black shirt. And also, it's 10 years this month when the Shield broke up. And I want to talk about what if it was Roman Reigns who turned on the Shield instead of Seth Rollins. So I know that there's a lot of different angles you could take with this, because I know that everyone's like they weren't going to do that because they wanted Roman to be the breakout star of the Shield, which is very obvious. And they really did push him, obviously, as the new John Cena, which, shockingly, is why fans were rejecting him. And I think had they gone this route earlier with the heel turn, because now you hear "We Want Roman" chants, people would be more accepting him as the top babyface much sooner than 2024. So let's just jump right into it. Night after Payback in 2014, Shield defeats Evolution again in that no-holds-barred six-man elimination match. And we all know the famous scene. The Shield is in the ring. Randy Orton and Triple H are on the ramp. Triple H tells them there's always Plan B because Batista had walked out and in storyline quit WWE because he went to go film Guardians of the Galaxy. And he actually quit WWE for real because he didn't come back for 4 years. But actually, it might have been 5 years then. But anyways, we can switch roles. Instead of, obviously, everyone knows the scene, Ambrose and Reigns step forward. Seth Rollins, with the chair in his hand, is now a step behind Ambrose and Reigns. Rollins winds up, swings, hits Roman in the back, and then Ambrose turns around and gets attacked with the chair as well. So you could do the same scene. Instead, it's Ambrose and Rollins stepping forward, and Roman Reigns then hits Seth Rollins in the back, just like he did this past year at WrestleMania in his loss to Cody, and then attacks Roman Reigns. I like Roman Reigns as the guy who becomes the face of the Authority over Seth Rollins for a few reasons. And it's not just because the fans rejected Roman Reigns and it's the hindsight of 2020. No, really, because if you looked, the Authority became the modern-day corporation for that time, and they were really rehashing that angle. And who was the crown jewel of the corporation when it first started? It was The Rock. And I really think losing Batista in that angle and ending that Evolution reunion, that very short-lived one, I think it would have made more sense for Roman to go heel. Being, as JBL always called him, the muscle of the Shield, you can replace Batista, the big guy they lose, with another big guy in Roman Reigns. The Shield is obviously totally done because now it's just Ambrose and Rollins. And Roman Reigns just obviously had the look the WWE wanted. But if you see him coming out, obviously not in the Shield, not in the Riot gear anymore, but instead what he comes out in now, where it's just the long pants. Or honestly, they could have him even have him coming out in a suit and really being the corporate guy for the Authority. I feel like he would have honestly fit the mold of what they were looking for much better in terms of being the top heel. So fans are obviously going to be very against him because he's the one who caused the demise of the Shield. You can then slot him in Money in the Bank, and you can just switch Seth Rollins for Roman Reigns because remember Daniel Bryan had to forfeit the title because of his neck. He then Roman Reigns wins the briefcase while John Cena wins the vacated WWE title, the unified title at that point. I think that works better for a few reasons because Roman Reigns, he doesn't have to be the cowardly heel because he is big enough. You can still present him as, the tough guy and the top guy of the Authority at this point, but a guy who can win matches on his own because he's a bigger dude. And Seth Rollins staying face I actually like because Seth Rollins, I know his mannerisms and the way he cut promos at the time was that of a heel, but I always said his wrestling style was the style of a babyface because he was always flying around. He was doing flips over the ropes. He was doing a Phoenix Splash. He did that awesome top rope elbow to Brock Lesnar through the table in the 2015 Royal Rumble. I feel like he just has a style that people like and people would want to cheer over the slower style, the powerhouse style of Roman Reigns. So again, I think what happens there is obviously he feuds with Ambrose. He defeats him at SummerSlam in a similar manner that Seth Rollins did. I don't think he needs the help from Kane as much like Seth did, but you could do it still where he cheats. He hits him with the briefcase when the ref is distracted because it was a lumberjack match. Ref is distracted by a lumberjack brawling on the outside. Roman nails Ambrose with the briefcase to protect Ambrose in this case. In this situation, and Roman gets the pin and wins at SummerSlam. I know what happened there is then he actually had the hernia and he was out for a few months. I actually think, obviously, that still would have happened, but I think you could have played into that. In all honesty, I think you could have actually had Ambrose and Rollins take him out and get some revenge on him. Because, look, you still want to make 3 new single stars because they broke the Shield up earlier than they planned because of losing Daniel Bryan. Seth even said on a podcast it's a business of single stars, and they realized we have 3 ready-made single stars, but we have to break up the Shield, which they did. I know they did it earlier than they thought they would. So, really, you could have Ambrose and Rollins take out the Authority one night and then take out Roman. And then, obviously, having the hernia and needing the surgery, that can kind of give him the excuse for being off TV. So he's going to miss Hell in the Cell, and he's going to miss Survivor Series where the Authority breaks up. But I actually like that, in all honesty, because that would have taken, I think that you would have still wanted to protect Roman in those cases, and that would have possibly taken the focus off Sting debuting. So they still could have done the 10-man tag with the same stipulations, but Sting debuts, and he's not overshadowed by Roman Reigns. I know Seth was in the match and got pinned by Ziggler, but Roman has always been presented as the bigger star than Seth Rollins or Ambrose when he was there. The focus has been on Roman, and not just the past 4 years as champion, just in general, look at how they've been booked. Roman was protected despite the bad promos. He definitely, honestly, probably would have been in the match, but they would have done more to protect him, but he's always been presented as the bigger star. So I actually like that he wouldn't be involved in the Sting debut. And what I do like, actually, is I think Roman still could have returned when he did in December. And I know they do the Slammy Awards, and people started turning on him at that time because Roman was presented as the superstar of the year, despite missing all those months. And people were like, what about Seth? What about Ambrose? What about Daniel Bryan? Etc. And that's when the boos started happening. So yes, I know it's a stupid award, it's the Slammies, but I think that Triple H and Stephanie can come out and still present Roman as Superstar of the Year in 2014. He can then cut a heel promo, reminding people that he still has the Money in the Bank briefcase, and reminding people that he was the front man for the Shield, and the reason for their success. And then he can declare that he is entering the 2015 Royal Rumble. So from there, obviously, I know that he won it. The Rock came out, helped him eliminate Rusev, and then The Rock got booed, and then he didn't expect it and was clearly confused as to what was going on. Believe it or not, I'd still have Roman win the Royal Rumble. Yes. Because look, people are going to boo him at this point, and a lot of famous wrestling bookers really do believe, and Vince obviously believed this, that heat from fans or fans being really mad about something equals more attention because they want to see the top heel get beat, and it equals more people buying the pay-per-views because, again, if people are getting annoyed by something, they want to see him lose. They probably know the loss isn't going to happen on a Raw or SmackDown, so they have to watch the pay-per-view to see him get beat. So in all honesty, I actually have him win the Royal Rumble. So this way, now he's guaranteed a title shot at WrestleMania, and he has the Money in the Bank briefcase still. Now, of course, Lesnar would still be champion in this situation. I think Suplex City still happens, and it still happens the same way. But this time now, Roman has got the insurance policy. I have a match against Lesnar at WrestleMania for the title, and even if I don't win that, I can still cash this briefcase in any time when he least expects it. Perfect, in my opinion, because I think you can still have him go through, obviously, I know there was a big snowstorm the next day in 2015 after he won Royal Rumble, so they didn't really have a Raw. They just showed clips of the Royal Rumble and did some sit-down interviews. Like, everything was closed because that Raw was supposed to be in Connecticut. I remember this, actually, because I was supposed to go to that Raw and didn't get to go, obviously. So you have the build up to the match with Lesnar. This time, I know everyone's going to say, well, it's going to switch the roles, face Lesnar versus heel Roman Reigns. First of all, they proved in 2021 and 2022 that dynamic would work. Secondly, the crowd was cheering and wanted to see Brock retain the title anyways. Yes, I mean, go back and watch the match at WrestleMania 31 when Roman comes through the crowd, which he's not doing anymore. He's coming down the ramp. Again, I don't think he needs J&J security, Jamie Noble, and Joey Mercury, because again, I don't think he needs to be presented as the cowardly heel hiding behind people. He needs to be presented still as the credible guy, a top heel, but a guy who can win matches, because again, he doesn't need that much protection. Seth was booked more as the cowardly heel in those cases. Roman wouldn't be looked at like that. I know he had the Usos and he had Solo and everything, but having the guys who are established as a top guy in NXT and multiple-time tag team champions as the backup in your crew when they had the bloodline running, strong with him as leader, is very different than having to hide behind two guys in suits the size of Noble and Joey Mercury. And I know obviously there was corporate Kane, but I just feel like he wouldn't need all of that to protect his character. So again, we moved through Elimination Chamber, and now we're at WrestleMania 31. I still think we get the famous line of Brock Lesnar saying, "Suplex City, bitch." And the fans, I think the match plays out the same way. Roman Reigns is taken to Suplex City. Now, the match isn't interrupted by Seth Rollins to turn it into that triple threat to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase mid-match, which made for a memorable ending. I actually think that Brock Lesnar wins this match and retains his title. Honestly, I think it actually would have made for a good ending because, again, people would want to see Roman get beat. They'd want to see him get beat down by someone since June of the previous year for breaking up the Shield. You finally get some vindication, and at least he doesn't win with his Royal Rumble title shot. Obviously, you can see where this is going because they still had to write Lesnar off TV the next night. He is still only a part-time wrestler. So the next night, I think Lesnar comes out with Heyman to open Raw. Heyman obviously can come out and obviously I think Heyman can come out, hype up Lesnar's win. even if he's getting cheered, he can still cut the same kind of promos, portraying Lesnar as the unbeatable, unstoppable man who, the beast that broke the streak, and now for the next year has retained his WWE title, beating the hand-picked, chosen one of the Authority, Roman Reigns, which would get him cheered. But then Roman can come out, and I think he can do a sneak attack from behind, do a callback to turn on the Shield. He can hit Lesnar from behind with a chair, Superman punch Paul Heyman, so Paul Heyman's out of there, because he's one bumping out. Assault Lesnar with the chair, sphere him, Superman punch him, totally knock him out, then takes the briefcase, says I'm cashing in, and I know it'd be on a Raw, and it'd be a very quick, quote-unquote match, kind of like the match Lesnar had with Kofi Kingston in 2019 on SmackDown that lasted like 10 seconds. But, look, you want to get good heel heat, you want to establish Roman as the top heel and a hated guy, more hated than he was in 2015 as a babyface. This is how you do it. He wins the title the cheap way. Lesnar's totally knocked out. He's been hit with the chair more times than, I don't know, maybe they love their huge chair shot angles now where he gets hit in the back with it like 10 to 15 times. Again, gets Superman punched, maybe gets speared twice, and even to protect Lesnar, let's put him through a table, powerbomb him through the table individually, and then obviously Roman cashes in, hits one more spear, the bell rings, Lesnar's wobbly, can barely stand, Reigns hits one more spear and pins him in about 30 seconds, so it's about a 20 to 30 second matchup. Reigns is now the new WWE Champion, and that's how you open that Raw. So later on, you'll obviously see Triple H, Stephanie, the rest of I keep wanting to call them the corporation, the Authority, celebrating, and they talk about how they knew they picked the right guy and their investment in Roman has paid off. He promised he would win the briefcase, he promised he would win the Royal Rumble, and he promised him he would win the Authority, the WWE title. So I know that Seth faced Randy Orton for his first title defense the next month. I know that actually they had done the separation because Randy was with the Authority when Seth first joined, but then was kicked out and beat down by them, and then they did the curb stomp on the brick to turn Randy Orton face. I still think you can do that. You can turn Randy Orton face. He feels slighted because he used to be Triple H's guy through Evolution and everything like that when he was 23, 24. But now you have the younger, more agile, more athletic, stronger Roman Reigns that they're pushing. And he's just as big as Randy Orton. They're both in great shape. But Randy now in 2015 is a little bit older. He's in his mid-30s. Roman Reigns is still in his 20s, late 20s, but still, he's younger. So he sees himself getting pushed out, wants a shot at the title. And then beating Randy Orton the very next month at Extreme Rules, I think would be a really good way still of establishing Roman as a credible champion, because beating a guy like Randy Orton adds credibility to that championship resume. The next month, I actually would have him beat Seth Rollins. Now he's facing Seth Rollins for the title, and then I think that would be at Money in the Bank. He beats him, but then after he beats him, he gets attacked by Dean Ambrose. And they can talk about how 1 year ago, Ambrose almost won Money in the Bank briefcase, but Roman stole it from him the last minute. They can play off their history in the Shield, obviously, but have everything come full circle from the year ago when Roman won the briefcase when Ambrose is in the match. And after the beatdown, they beat down Roman. Seth and Dean Ambrose beat down Roman together, stand over him. Even though Roman is still the champion, you still have to keep the credibility for Seth and Dean looking strong, and they can call back to that attack I referenced in 2014 when Roman went out with hernia surgery. They can call back to that to give that angle some closure. Going into that summer then, I think at SummerSlam, this is now SummerSlam 2015, I know that they actually had Roman doing things with Dean Ambrose. He faced the Wyatt family and everything. I wouldn't have him do that, obviously. I would have him beat Roman. I would have Roman Reigns beat Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose in a triple threat match. Again, establishing him as the best guy and the most dominant guy of the Shield, and really giving him that leg up on both of them. So now we're going into the fall, and he's really obviously just really running through everyone, but there really is nothing for him to do until obviously the fall, because he can say, like, even through, I think, oh yeah, there was also Battleground. He could win obviously he could win in Money in the Bank against Dean in a singles match, and then beat Seth at Battleground that July, and then win the triple threat match at SummerSlam. But then going into the fall, that's when obviously you go into the Hell in the Cell and Survivor Series. I think that's when you bring back Brock Lesnar, because they did this whole thing for Seth when he was champion in 2015, talking about how they made a good investment, but he's still under an immense amount of pressure. Is he going to crack, or is he going to rise up? And then Triple H has that line of, Seth, the pressure is on. And then the guitar riff happens, and Lesnar came out. I think they can do that because Roman can be celebrating that he has established himself as the most dominant member of the Shield. And he can honestly even say that he has proven everyone right. Everyone said he was the front man of the Shield. They were right. Look at me, I'm champion. And last night, I beat Seth and Dean in a triple threat match, and have beaten them both one-on-one. There is no doubt in anyone's mind who the top guy is. Triple H can then remind Roman that, yes, you are our champion, but there is still one more mountain for you to climb. And then you hear the Lesnar theme, that famous guitar riff, and then obviously they're off and running. I think you can have them face each other at Hell in the Cell, and in that case, at Hell in the Cell in a no-holds-barred match, I think you can have, this is the one time, considering it's a no disqualification match, you can have some interference to help Roman win. Ironically, I would do a small callback to Kane's debut at Bad Blood in 1997. Have Kane get into the cell. Maybe he was hiding underneath the ring and comes to the ring like you've seen him before. Chokeslams Lesnar through a table. And then he works with Roman to put to do a double power bomb. I'm thinking like onto the steps or maybe through another table. One more sphere, and again, Roman has pinned Brock Lesnar to retain the WWE Championship. Believe it or not, then, at Survivor Series, I know that year in 2015, they did that one-night tournament for a new champion, because Seth blew out his knee, had to get stripped of the title. They had Roman win it, and then lose it to Sheamus that same night. No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have Sheamus win the title. No offense to any Sheamus fans out there, but we got to remember that Roman's a heel, and Sheamus won it as a heel. So I would actually still have Roman lose the title, and I would have him lose it to Brock Lesnar. The reason I would do that is, in all honesty, I would have Triple H, obviously, still backing Roman, and I would have him still, obviously, look at him as the crown jewel of the Authority, but this time, clean. No interference, again, because I wouldn't want it where Triple H accidentally cost Roman the title, because that would position Roman as a babyface, and I wouldn't want to do that yet. I still think that even after a year, it's too soon to turn Roman face so quickly, because I think fans would still kind of not accept him as a babyface. I would have I would have Brock Lesnar pin Roman Reigns for the WWE title. The next night on Raw, again, Lesnar is being positioned more as the babyface here. They're reminding people, Roman can still remind people that he's beaten Lesnar twice still. Granted, under circumstantial in circumstantial times because of the Money in the Bank cash in after the beatdown and a quick match and then interference from Kane. But if you think about it now, they're 2-2 because Lesnar has the 2 victories at WrestleMania and at Survivor Series, where Roman has beaten him at the Hell in the Cell with interference and then has also beaten him with the Money in the Bank cash in. So now they're 2-2. So now they have the tiebreaker. And I think what happens is Triple H says we have to have a tiebreaker here. We have to have the match. That's right. It's going to be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, TLC. So that December. I know that Roman lost in that December 2015 pay-per-view. And what I would have him do actually is I would have him win. And this time I would actually have him win cleanly because, again, we're trying to establish Roman as a credible champion and as the top heel, much like they did with their trilogy with Lesnar in 2021 and 2022. Lesnar got beat 3 times in a row. I think this time in the rubber match, and basically a best of 5, Roman Reigns needs to beat Brock Lesnar. And he can do it alone because it's a TLC match. So you can still do it where he still has to use a lot of weapons. And they can do, obviously, a ladder spot where I think actually they could do something where they're battling on top of the ladder. And then Reigns can get... I know he likes to do a Superman punch, and it's hard to do a Superman punch, when you're standing on a ladder. But they can have it where he either has that or takes something like brass knuckles out of his tights, nails Lesnar with the brass knuckles in a Superman punch-like fashion, nails him, Lesnar falls off the ladder, is knocked out, Roman Reigns ends the show, retrieving the belt, and standing there on the ladder with the WWE title. So now we go into the Royal Rumble, and I know that he was champion going into that Royal Rumble in 2016 because of the fact that I actually remember that he had to defend the title in the Rumble and then lost and Triple H became champion. In this situation, if Seth still gets injured, I actually think that obviously Lesnar is not going to be, Roman Reigns is not going to be in the Rumble considering he's still an authority guy. So I'm keeping the authority together longer and still keeping him a top guy where he's protected by Triple H and Stephanie now. So what I would do here instead is I would actually then, that would actually to me end the feud with Lesnar and Reigns. And I would actually go back to Dean Ambrose for the Royal Rumble. I would have him face Dean Ambrose one more time at the Royal Rumble because instead of obviously, because Dean Ambrose was Intercontinental Champion and they had albeit a relatively shorter match, they still fought for the title at Survivor Series in 2015. So I think actually you can still establish Dean as a credible guy, and I think you can hype up a champion versus champion match for that Royal Rumble. Unfortunately, Dean is going to lose again. Roman Reigns wins. Remind you one more time that he is still the top guy in the Shield, or was the top guy in the Shield, and is the WWE Champion. Here's how I would finally do the breakup between Triple H and Roman Reigns. Triple H enters that Rumble and wins. That way, kind of like in 2005, they can do an Evolution type angle where Triple H is propping it as in, look, we're safe either way. We're going to face each other at Mania. I just won the Rumble. The title stays with the Authority. I win or you win. It's a win-win for us. And at first, Roman is going along with it. Maybe he's like, that's a good idea. But then, I actually think, then finally you realize that they can do the whole thing kind of like where Batista overheard Ric Flair and Triple H talking, and he realized that he had kind of been set up by JBL and when he went to SmackDown, and all of that was placated by Triple H. You can do a sort of reenactment of that, where Roman Reigns at first is going along with it. Definitely. we're going to face each other. It's going to be the battle of the two head guys in the Authority. But either way, the title is staying with the Authority. But as weeks go by, going through Elimination Chamber, and Triple H can say, hey, I know we're supposed to face at Mania, but I booked you in Elimination Chamber. And Roman can be like, wait, why? Why do I have to be in Elimination Chamber? That's putting our match in danger. And Triple H can play it off like, no. I mean, I'll still be in the main event. So even if you lose an Elimination Chamber, I will win at WrestleMania, and we'll still have the title in the Authority, and I'll be champion. So he can play it off like, hey, as long as I'm champion still, it doesn't matter if you lose. So again, Roman is realizing, wait a minute, this guy doesn't seem to care if I stay champion or not. And I've done everything you've asked. So then, Triple H, and then he can finally realize that he's being set up and he was being used the whole time. And then they can talk about, he can overhear, kind of like I said, what Batista did. He can overhear a conversation about between Triple H and Stephanie, bragging about how they've manipulated Roman this whole time. They manipulated him into turning on his brothers in the Shield, has basically been their puppet the whole time. And while he did win the title and even wrestled it away from Lesnar, who that was the one guy they were worried about holding the title because they knew they couldn't control him because of Heyman, they can say, hey, we got Roman on puppet strings. He's taken out every obstacle that was a threat to us, but now it's time to put him down. And Triple H can say, it's time for me to take back my title and show why I'm the King of Kings still. So, in I think they did it the second to last Raw leading up to Mania, because they didn't do it in the Raw leading to Mania when Batista turned face, did the thumbs down, and then powerbombed Triple H to the table. They can still, again, do a callback to that. Roman Reigns comes out for the old contract signing with Triple H. They're across the table. And then they can have Roman be one step ahead, and he can say, you know, Triple H, you put a lot of trust in me, being the head guy, being they're at the contract signing table, he can even say, the head of the table for the Authority. And then he can say, and I'm very excited because I know it means a lot to go against my mentor at WrestleMania. Triple H can nod and smile and know he's like, I've got this guy right where I want him. But then he can reveal, he can say, but the thing is, when it's over, I'm still going to be champion. And then he can say, and even that sledgehammer under the table isn't going to save you. And then he can realize, wait a minute, he knows what I'm about to do, so obviously the sledgehammer comes out. But what Roman can do is wrestle it away, overpower Triple H, take it from him. He can do the whole thing, I think I've seen it before, where he breaks the handle, throws the sledgehammer over the ropes. Then Triple H realizes he has no weapon and he's been caught. Then Roman Reigns, similar to what he originally did after the day after WrestleMania 30, spheres Triple H and then power bombs him through the table, a callback to that Batista turn in 2005. And I think that would finally get people to cheer Roman Reigns, and that would get them the reaction they wanted. Because they built it for a bit where Triple H, again, gets, where Triple H, again, wins the Royal Rumble, talks about, obviously, how he doesn't mind going against Roman because the title stays in the Authority, but then, obviously, books him possibly to lose at Elimination Chamber, and then the month before, and then, obviously, he overhears that. So it all comes full circle. Roman Reigns realizes he's been set up, talks about how I did everything for you. I even turned on Dean and Seth for you, and this was after beating you in Evolution, and I've done everything you've asked, only for you to repay me by winning the Royal Rumble in an act of selfishness, entering that in an act of selfishness, and trying to take this title that I've defended for you and for the Authority. Well, I'm not defending it for them anymore. I'm defending this title for me. And he stands over, he obviously signs the contract for the match with Triple H, and stands over a broken Triple H and over a broken table, and that's how we lead into WrestleMania 32. I think actually in that regard, I think what can happen then is to get a pop, Roman can come out in the old Shield gear like he basically did right after the Shield. Like he changed his gear a little bit, but he can come out in the old Shield gear to the old Shield music. That would obviously get him the nostalgia pop. But now he's being positioned as the babyface against the heel Triple H. Still pins him and beats him and retains the title. And honestly, I think there is where it can end, because I think at that point, people would actually be more accepting of Roman as a babyface because of the story they're telling, where you finally get the big turn in the big WrestleMania match. And I feel like obviously he could still have the Batista type run that Batista had in 2005 before his back injury. So that's really where I'm going to end it, because I think that's actually the time frame it would take. So it would take almost 2 years for Roman to be positioned as a top guy, but it would be better in 2016. They would have more time to work with him as a top guy in 2016 than now in 2024, now that he's in his later 30s. They would have a younger 30-year-old Roman Reigns to run with as a top face that people actually wanted to cheer, and not a guy who was looked at as a guy who was being forced on us as a babyface. Big difference in the dynamic there. So that's really where I'm going to cap it. Obviously, you could still go on. Obviously, would he face The Undertaker and beat him at that next year's WrestleMania 33? Have another match with Brock? How many title reigns would he have on top of that? And then, how would that affect what we've seen from 2020 on when he aligns with Heyman and does the whole Bloodline saga? But guys, I want to know what you all think. I want to know if you think my booking of Roman Reigns as the top heel in 2014 to 2016 makes sense. Would you change anything? Do you think it would have gone better than Seth Rollins' run as a heel and the top guy for the Authority? Let me know. Leave me your feedback down below. And honestly, let me know about anything else you want me to talk about. Any other topics you could think of a what if. What could have been if something happened or if something didn't happen? I have a lot of different topics I want to talk about week to week. Definitely appreciate everyone listening to this. And like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my content. And again, let me know what you think. What would have happened, how would you have booked it if Roman Reigns turned on the Shield in 2014 and aligned himself with the Authority? Thanks a lot, guys.